Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Just waiting for a few more people to join and then we'll get started. And I'm just going to start very quickly telling you a few things about the species of fish that we're going to paint today. It's a very colourful one, so we should have some fun with watercolours today. Okay, I'm going to get started because it's 1 minute past, and I'm just going to share my screen. So this is the Ornate Wrasse. It's called Lhudi in Maltese, and Lhudi means Jewish or Jew. So I'm not sure why it's called that. It's quite interesting, but it'd be quite interesting to find out why. And this fish is approximately 20 centimeters long, so a bit shorter than one of your small school rulers. And it lives on rocky coasts. So it lives on the Eastern Atlantic. So you can see the arrows here. So it lives here and it lives in the Mediterranean Sea. So this is where Malta is. So that's why we get to see this fish on the coast of Malta. So female and male look different. So you can see the colors are a little bit different for each, the female and the male. And the population of this fish is stable. So that means that it's not threatened by humans and its numbers should be fine in the world. So that's good news. And a good place to spot this fish is at Golden Bay. If you go snorkeling, if you like snorkeling, you swim along the bottom of along the coast, the rocky coast, and you'll probably see them. They're really great to see. But I think most places in Malta, if you like snorkeling, you should see them. But always go with an adult if you try snorkeling, okay? Okay, so let's get started with the drawing. Yeah, so you should have this as everybody should be able to see my painting of the fish, the Ornate Wrasse. Okay, so I'll take that away, use that there, and we'll get started. So you need your pencil as usual, sorry. I have to do too many things at once. And so first of all, we're going to draw the basic shape, and the shape of the fish is, so I'm drawing it as a portrait, but you can draw it a landscape and you can make it quite big if you want to. So the basic shape, and I'm going to try and keep the pencil quite light. So if you want, you can decide where you want the fish first. So I'm going to draw a little line there, and then a line there, because that's where the tail will end. And the tail should start there. A few more people joining. Welcome if you've just joined. Hello, welcome. So we've started with drawing the fish. So we're basically just drawing where we want the fish for now. And so then here, it goes from a thin point to quite a thicker point. So you can go quite light here with your pencil, but you can rub out any lines that you don't need. So I'm quite sketchy when I draw, but everybody's different. So if you draw one straightforward line, that's fine too. And then here, the tail comes out. It's a really pretty tail. Well, the whole fish is pretty, to be honest. But it's quite feathery. And kind of curves at the bottom. So we have our basic shape. And now we can start to add a bit more detail. I'm just going to make the fish a bit thicker at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to rub out the lines I made to show where I wanted the fish to start and end. And again, you can make the fish as big as you want it. I'm hopefully planning to put something, maybe another species. Maybe you can draw the female above here when we finish this session. I also forgot actually, if you do want a link to the photo to draw from, I'll put it in the chat. And somebody's asked to enlarge. Hopefully that's a bit better. And it kind of comes, yeah, hopefully that's okay. Kind of comes off the edges a little bit then. Okay, so we can next draw in the top part, because the top of the fish, I'm not sure what you call this, if it's kind of like a long fin. So it's just this extra section at the top. And it sort of slants down at an angle. And so the head here. And while the point of the head comes out a bit pointed. And it does look a little bit as if it's smiling, this fish, which I quite like. So we can call it a male this time because it is a male fish. They almost have lips, but the upper lip comes out over the bottom lip. Okay. And then you can draw in the eye, because once we start to add a bit more detail, then everything else makes a bit more sense about where you place everything. And here we can mark, and at the top actually, let's just mark this so we don't forget it. There's another section that comes out with a few more color on it, a bit more color on it. And from here, there is a stripe, but it's not a straight line stripe. I think it needs to be the head. head needs a bit more space. And it does come up a little bit into a kind of bump at the top of this stripe. And then at the bottom here, you have a fin. Okay, and we also have another section that comes out on the other side of the fish. Just get my reference out. So it's kind of, the bottom one is a bit more rounded. And it's thicker at the front, and then it gets a bit thinner at the back. Just take a few more pencil lines away, although they'll probably be covered with the paint when we paint it. And then the tail, for some reason, is my favorite part. It has long triangles on it, so which come out like so long, thin triangles. Then you come back like that. But we do need to leave a line on the other side because that's going to be turquoise. And I'm not going to make this line too dark, the one that comes out in a squiggly way. They leave that quite light. And then on the other side, again, you have another triangle, but it comes out at a different angle. Okay, so we're nearly done with the drawing. He looks like a very happy fish so far. Even in the photo, the real fish looks quite happy with himself. Okay, I think we can start painting now. So the best thing to do is to start with the lighter colours. So the lightest colour we have here is the yellow, which this sort of a background color, because then when we use the darker colors, they can cover any bits that we've, I mean, we're not painting by numbers, but if we make any mistakes, we can cover them up with the darker color. So I'm going to take a relatively big brush. I might take this one. And I'm going to use a bright yellow. And so my yellow in watercolor is called lemon yellow. So if you have that, but otherwise it's going to be a bit difficult to show you this, but I've run out of yellow. So I'm trying to use what I've got left in my tube, but that's the color basically. But hopefully you can see that. And I'm just going to dip my brush into it because I don't want to waste paint. And I'm going to make it a little bit watery. Although in this heat, watercolors drying very quickly, so it's a bit hard to get them to stay watery. And basically you just paint the body, the main part of the body yellow. So we don't want to paint the tail since that's more turquoise or blue color. Hopefully everyone's with me and started painting. It looks like you are, so that's good. Okay. And I'm just going to paint, because it does have a yellow bit at the front as well. Just a patch at the top. Don't worry if you don't get the exact right shape, because it's quite nice when they look a bit different. And I'm going to take a smaller brush just to paint this, the top of the line in here. So next I want to make an orangey color, and this is the one I used previously, and I need a bit of a slightly smaller brush. Okay, and the way I'm making this orangey color is using cadmium yellow and I'm too sure it was permanent rose, like a pinky color. But if you don't have pink, just use normal red. Just use what you have. It should hopefully make, yes, makes that nice orangey color. Red, I might make it a little bit more on the yellow side. Oh, too much paint. Haven't painted in a while because I've been so busy. Quite nice to be painting again. So I'm adding a bit of water to this. Now I think it's too yellow. Okay, and then I'm going to take one of my thinner brushes and I'm going to, you need to be a bit careful. You can change it to an angle so that you don't paint like smudge the yellow. And the lines across it, so it's one line that does go all the way down and then one line that stops in the middle and then starts again. So, and it's fine if it smudges because it will do, the paint will start to combine, but that's fine, that's quite a nice effect. So I'm going one line all the way and then one line that stops and then starts again. A bit annoyed it's not going to bleed a little bit more, but everything's drying so quickly. Then one line all the way down. And if you look closely at the fish, and I don't know how, the lines kind of stop in a certain pattern as well. I don't think I managed to get it to do that on the last one, but it's very interesting once you start looking at patterns on different animals, how detailed they all are. So they're really good inspiration for if you do design work or if you want to think of some colors to use for a project. Or a pattern. My lines aren't straight, but that's fine. Even no matter how hard you try. Everyone okay? Hopefully everyone's fine. And if you go over the edge a little bit, it's fine because, like I said, because we're going to paint some other sections blue, then that will cover that bit up. managed to make it curve a little bit there. And then this last section, it becomes a bit more orange. So you can paint kind of curved section here. And it's quite nice, it's blending with the yellow. And I'm just going to, because I don't want harsh lines around it, I'm adding a bit of water. Around the edges, so it looks a bit more blended. Okay, so the next bit where we have orange is just on the other side, on the head. So you can paint down the other side of that stripe. And we can start to paint in the shapes that you see there. So we need to leave some space for the blue parts. If we think this is what you call negative painting, kind of, because you're leaving spaces for other bits. And then that part comes round and again, if your shapes are a bit different, that's absolutely fine. And then there's a section, a part here that comes out the top of the head, like a little patch. And here on the fish's cheek, there's a funny shaped patch, which comes down to the eye. So we want to leave the outside of the eye white. But if you have any accidents, it's fine, you can always use white paint to add the eye back in again. The paint's drying really fast. And then paint the other section or other part up here. It's quite fun seeing the fish beginning to take some character. shape came out a bit different, but that's okay. And last orange part. It's almost like sketching with a paintbrush. I think I started off being quite careful, but then I started making it up. Okay, and I'm just going to take a tiny bit of orange and paint a line there. Okay, so next, I think we should paint the turquoisey colour in. And trying to think of how we made this colour. When we painted the bee, we had to use turquoise. And I think the best colour to use to make it is cerulean blue. I might have to test it out a little bit. So I'll put that there. My palette's a little bit dirty. Well, it's not dirty, it's paint. But I don't want to waste much of it. So I remember I was telling you to use a bit of rough paper. So we'll do that now to test it out. And then a bit greeny. This is a darker blue. Maybe you've already managed to make it. And that's another type of blue, cobalt blue. They're all a bit too green. If you do have the turquoise colour, you can go ahead and use it. I think this is the best colour to use, the light blue and light yellow mixed together, but more, if you add more blue, yeah. So it's kind of a turquoisey green. So you don't need much yellow mixed into it. So if you mix those two together, you should get that colour. So I'm going to use, so I have ready mixed turquoise. Make that a bit wetter. And I'm going to paint the tail first. And the way I'm going to do it is, oops, the way I'm going to do it is paint water on it first, just the middle section. So hopefully we can get some nice watercolor effect. It might work with poster paint as well, if you make it quite watery. I'm just getting paint all over myself. So then when you paint it on, because you're painting it into the water, it makes all these lovely effects. Almost quite feathery, which is nice to have on the tail. Bled a little bit into the body, but that's fine. Might add a bit of water here. And then it's quite blending this in a little bit. It does go a bit blue towards the end of the body. So if this has happened to you, that's fine. Then I'm going to take some of the turquoise color and paint the edge of the tail. And then the other side. And then on the bottom part is turquoise as well. So kind of splits in half this section. Make it a little bit thicker at the bottom here. And then I might have turned it upside down so that it's a bit easier. And get smudges all over the place. I need to paint a bit more of a thicker line at the top of the fish. My tail's doing lots of strange things. Just going to paint some lines in. Yeah, that's better. So there's a bit less water on my brush, but I just painted some lines to make it look a bit feathery. It's not feathery, I guess. It's where the tail's thinner. Yeah, I'm going to drop some water in there. Hopefully it doesn't start filling the rest of the fish up with water. So you might find different effects when you're experimenting with watercolor. So, you know, whatever you come up with might be a great way for you. So I'm just going to paint the middle section in turquoise as well, that stripe. And then we have the bottom fin as well. Which I'm going to try again to paint with a bit of water first. Okay, that came out quite interesting. So then if I paint some water here, that should lead into it. Okay. And then the next sections are turquoise. Are the bits on the head, of course. So now we just basically need to fill it in. But you can do your own, you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing, but because everybody can have different interpretations of what they're looking at. So you might want to take the colors and paint completely different patterns. I find it interesting a lot of the time that when you're painting nature, you feel like you learn a lot about it just by looking carefully at the way it looks. And the mouth, yeah, so I'm trying to make it stick out a little bit. But it's quite good if the pencil marks do show there, because then it shows this hint into the mouth. And I'm going to take another blue and paint. I'm going to turn it upside down again and paint the top. So I have a blue, it's called Prussian blue, but you can use ultramarine blue or just a dark blue that you have. Again, I'm going to paint it with water first, just to see what effects I can get. This is quite a strong blue. So I do want it to come to the top. So now I'm just painting water into the top to make it move around a bit more. Maybe add a bit more there. And turn it around, see if you like it. So we need a purpley or a purple color next. So to make that, to try and make a bit of space on my palette. And it's purple, but it's kind of a bluey kind of purple. Or actually, what I might do is use the dark blue at the bottom again, so that it matches. So and that bottom section. So my batteries go on my phone. Okay, we're back. I'm just painting that bottom part. Yeah, I was going to say, I think what happens when you paint an animal that lives underwater, it's a bit difficult to spot what the colours are sometimes. So I'm now wondering whether the back part of the fish is probably dark blue as well and not purple. If you've painted it purple, it's fine, because that's what I did on my previous one. It's probably something to do with the shadows, but I think what I'm going to do is use this same blue, so any dark blue that you have, and then paint the edges. So those triangles we drew. I actually really like the effects the watercolors created. Maybe bring it out at a little bit of a point at the bottom there. I'm just going to blend with a bit of water this part. Okay, and turn the fish around again and paint the top part. I'm just going to do the same, just blend that a little bit. Hopefully I haven't been too fast today. Oops, just dropped. You can just blend any water in. And the last thing is to paint the eye. So you can use black, of course. I'm going to use something I've got, a color I have called Payne's Grey, which isn't completely black. And they do say sometimes it's better when you're using watercolor not to use completely black because it's too stark next to the other colors. So I'll just paint the middle of the eye. I don't know whether to, I think I might leave them out as it is. So you can paint the sea in, which is what I did on my other one. I might not do all of it because I do want to paint, I think I'll paint another fish at the top of this page. I don't know how you all doing. Have you, well, there's some people that have finished, I think. But we can, I'll just show you quickly. I'm sure you're okay with painting sea. I think I'll use ultramarine. You do have to be a little bit careful because you don't want to spoil your nicely painted fish. But I'm going to just paint some water in, so you're basically wetting the paper. And then take your blue, maybe make it a bit watery, and then paint that in. So I'm using a big brush, but just hoping it's going to let me control it quite a lot around the edges. But if not, you can take a smaller brush. To do the edges with. If you're not happy with the hard edges, you can just over them.
Miss,
Yeah.
do you like my picture?
Yes, hang on a minute, because let me switch off. Let me switch off the recording and then we can look at each other's paintings, because to stop everyone from being on the recording, I'm just going to write the name of the fish. I think I'll write it here for now. So the name is Ornate Wrasse or Lhudi in Maltese. Okay. Okay, so that's the fish. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to stop the recording and then we can look at each other's drawings and paintings. Okay, thank you for joining.